Thanks, man. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for coming in.
100%, man.
If people don't know the story, we'll give them the brief synopsis. I found out about your story online because there was this viral thing that was going on about a chef who was getting protested by a bunch of animal rights activists and vegans who decided to camp out in front of your business and try to, the restaurant called Antler in Toronto, try to, I don't know what the fuck they were trying to do, but you decided to butcher a leg of deer in front of them, and it became this horrific thing. Like, how could you do that in a place that serves meat? How could you prepare the meat right in front of them? Like, how did this all get started? How did it become such a crazy viral story? And why were they mad at you when there's a million other restaurants around you?
All right, so it started in about December.
Clue number one, possibly Canadian.
The crazy Canadian.
Besides being nice.
Well, that's why it went viral, because I wasn't being nice. I wasn't the stereotypical Canadian. No.
Well, you weren't even being mean. You were just doing your job in front of them.
Doing my thing. So they started in December, and they
Try
really
to keep this right in front of your face. So
they really got pissed off with we have a little chalkboard sign out front. I'll give you we have a 45-seat restaurant, so we're a small, have one business partner who's my best friend and family friend, and we had a little chalkboard sign out front that said, "Venison is the new kale." And, you know, we get cute with our sign. We tease other restaurants around us. Like, we have fun with the sign, and it's fun. And this cyclist vegan rode by and took huge offense to our sign, and all of a sudden one day these protesters just showed up. So originally, I was just kind of frustrated because they're totally misguided, because we take a lot of pride in where our food comes from. We have vegan and vegetarian dishes on the menu, and I really respect that type of diet. So we were just totally floored with why this was happening. And so this started to go on. They started to come every week, and they went from like 2 or 3 people being kind of peaceful to being like 10, 15 people, not so peaceful. So it's when it turned not so peaceful, they were shouting at our guests and shouting in our door and really trying to harm our business, that I just kind of got fed up. Last resort, went down. We get a whole deer a couple times a month, and we butcher it ourselves. And I just said, screw it. I'm going to get these people to get out of here. So I thought that would make them go away.
How did you think that was going to make them go away and not escalate it?
I don't know. It was just totally like last resort. Totally fed up. I wanted to defend myself, defend our customers. You know, you could see people walking in visibly upset. Yeah. You know, they're being shouted at, being screamed at, called a murderer as they're walking in for dinner. Like, you're going on a date, you want to have a nice time, and then people are screaming at you, you know, just for eating. So I was just fed up, and I just kind of thought, like, you know, buzz off.
And why? So just one sign. Venison is the new kale. One sign. Set this whole thing off.
Yeah.
And you're surrounded by restaurants. I mean, I know where you are.
So we're surrounded by restaurants.
Toronto.
There's an actual butcher shop across the street, and if you go in, there's like whole cattle hanging.
That's okay.
In their butcher shop.
But you're a problem with your comparison to kale. You attack their sacred kale. God.
We're promoting meat. I don't know.
That's
totally
what it
bizarre.
Is? Because you were promoting it?
We were promoting it
on the sign.
Yeah.
So
no
if
idea.
you just didn't promote anything, and they were allowed to cycle by and dream of broccoli without any interference.
Yeah, man. I have no idea. It's totally bizarre.
I'm sorry. How many times did they protest you?
I think it's about 8 now. 8. They're coming weekly.
They still do?
They still do. There's one this Friday.
Oh, Jesus. So they organize them.
They organize them. There's like Facebook groups. There's they're basically giving us an ultimatum. We have to put their slogan in our window, and they'll go away. But,
what?
Yeah.
What's their slogan? We are cunts?
There's like, I can't remember it, you know, word for word, but it's, you know, like, killing animals is wrong. They have feelings. You know, yeah.
Do you have to put that in your window?
Well, we're not going to. There's no way.
But that's what they want.
That's what they want. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It's like eco-terrorism, extortion, whatever you want to call it.
Wow. Well, the part of this that drives me the most crazy is the fact that you're surrounded by restaurants.
We're surrounded by restaurants.
You're surrounded by, like you said, you're across the street from a butcher shop. 97% of the people in the world eat meat. It's something crazy like that. I mean, I'm sure everyone hasn't really been polled. I'm sure it's not that accurate, but it's somewhere between 95 and 97%.
It's big. It's big, and I think we're an easy target. Our name is Antler. I think they're mad because their thing is that we're promoting ethical farming, and their beliefs is there is no such thing as ethical farming.
Right.
That all meat is murder, and if you look up murder in the dictionary, it has to do with humans. It has nothing to do with animals, and there is such a thing as ethical farming and sustainable farming, and we work really hard to make sure that where we get our meat from is from the best possible place we can, and it's local. So it's supporting our local farmers that are within hours of our restaurant.
Now, when you say that they started out nice, like how many people were there in the beginning?
2, 3, 4.
And they had signs?
They had signs, and they were just kind of promoting their message, but they weren't really yelling and screaming. And
what escalated it?
So we would call the police. We kind of got wind of it on their Facebook groups. So we would call the police and have the police there to make sure everyone's safe, because one thing, like, customers are scared, our staff are scared. Like, no one's dealt with this before. I've never dealt with this before. So we would have the police there. The police were amazing. And then, one time we kind of thought, okay, let's not call the police. Let's see what happens. Like, maybe they'll go away. And so then, like, a megaphone came out. Our neighbors were coming down and getting in fights with them, and it was ugly. So we called the police to come and
Jesus Christ,
keep the peace. Yeah,
a megaphone.
Yeah.
Part of the problem with these kind of things is it becomes a contest. It becomes a battle. Trying to see who's going to win. Mm-hmm. And they're absolutely on a team. I mean, that's one of the things that happens with veganism, and I think it happens with hunters too. Excuse me. People become very tribal, and it's us versus them, and they want to win, and then it becomes this thing where look, the reality is, a lot of people are idiots, and they don't have a lot going on in their life, and so when something comes up where it becomes a primary focus of their life, one restaurant, as illogical as it might be, that becomes the battleground, and it's an ideological battleground for don't eat meat ever. Versus sustainable farming, look. I'm sure. I know you're a hunter. I'm sure you feel a certain amount of remorse when an animal dies.
100%, and that's a big part of sort of my beliefs and my philosophy, and why I'm working on this cookbook right now is because I think that if you do eat meat, you should be able to kill an animal and experience that. And I think that if people were to actually kill an animal, they would see what goes into that, and I don't think people would consume as much meat, and I don't think people would definitely, they certainly wouldn't waste as much meat as they do, and it's just really upsetting, and I think it's totally misguided, why we were targeted.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think it just becomes a game.
Yeah,
it becomes the big tribal game. There's a real argument that I support against factory farming. And factory farming is the way most people are getting their meat in terms of like cheeseburgers and fast food and stuff along those lines. I mean, you're not getting it from the most ethical sources. It's not financially sustainable to do it that way. Everything would cost more money.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem that we as a society, it's not obviously not you or I that has set up this system, but that this system is a system that we find ourselves a part of. Mm-hmm. It's a real problem. I've removed myself from it for the most part, but occasionally I'm on the road and I'm hungry, and I'll eat some meat that's just whatever.
Totally, it's a necessary evil,
and sort of,
it's
not
but
really necessary.
It's not really necessary at all. That maybe that's the wrong way to describe it, but it's how the system's been set up, and it's actually why I started hunting and doing what I do, because I watched these documentaries like Food Inc. and these things that kind of shone a light on the system and how this stuff is actually being produced, and it's horrible. It's terrifying.
It really is.
Yeah, and
I think that's the real number one problem.
And and this vegan activist message to go after these types of farming, we support as well, and we agree with. So the fact that we were targeted for this was really, really frustrating.